Hello and welcome. You tune into news now with me, Ankita Saxena. And in a heartbreaking development, Air India's flight AI-171, a Boeing 787 Dreamliner crashed shortly after takeoff from Ahmedabad's Sardar Vallabhbhai Patel International Airport. The London-bound flight was carrying 242 people, 230 passengers and 12 crew members. According to the sources, there are no survivors. Well, the aircraft lost contact shortly after the takeoff and crashed into a residential building in Meghani Nagar, triggering explosions and heavy smoke. Emergency services rushed to the scene with fire crews and disaster response teams deployed immediately. Gujarat CM Bhupendra Patel also rushed to the crash site and also visited the hospital to oversee the rescue and medical efforts. 6 NDRF teams and Border Security Force units have been deployed to assist. Now, Air India's chairman has expressed deep sorrow and pledged full support to the victims and the families. Meanwhile, all the flights at Ahmedabad airport have been suspended. The DGCA has launched a probe with the Boeing's technical team expected to assist very soon. And as you can see on the bottom of your screen, what's breaking now is that the Aviation Ministry has activated control and helplines at the number that's flashing on the bottom of your screen for Portuguese National for assistance, and also helpline for all those in distress, and they can contact to know more. In fact, in contact with the Air India regarding Flight 171 and stand ready to support them. That's the word coming in from the Aviation Ministry. Also, they're saying that the helplines are now open for families, perhaps, to get in touch, with the authorities to probably seek more information. In fact, the number is flashing. The hotline is open, the passenger hotline. The number is flashing on the bottom of your screens, and the flights, as far as we know, the sense that we're picking up, that most of the flights are now getting cancelled at the Ahmedabad airport. But ET also spoke to Natarajan Chandrasekharan or N. Chandra of Tata Group. Listen into what he had to say about the tragic incident.
It is an Air India flight. It is a very devastating incident. We are extremely saddened with the accident and the crash. And now at this point in time, our deepest condolences and our thoughts are with the people affected and their families. We are trying to get more information, the reason for the crash, and the extent of damage, both on the passengers and on the nearby area. We've set up a emergency response team on the ground, and so that we can provide information to all the people as and when we are able to immediately assess the situation. There is a team that has been set up on the ground, and I am in fact rushing from Bombay to Ahmedabad to the site.
And we also spoke to Union MOS of Civil Aviation, Muralidhar Mahol. Let's go across and listen into what he had to say about the accident.
नहीं, अभी तक तो वहाँ पे राहत बचाव का कार्य शुरू हो गया है। अभी तो हमारी फर्स्ट प्रायोरिटी तो यही है कि उन लोगों को मदद करनी चाहिए। टोटल उसमें 242 लोग थे, 230 यात्री थे और 12 क्रू मेंबर्स थे।
हाँ सर।
तो ये बहुत ही दुर्भाग्यपूर्ण घटना हुई है। हमारी मिनिस्ट्री उस पर काम भी कर रही है, स्टेट गवर्नमेंट से संपर्क में है उसे, और अभी मुझे लगता है कि राहत बचाव का कार्य जो पहला शुरू है, उसके बाद में हम एक्चुअली उसमें क्या हुआ है, सत्यता क्या है, उसका रीजन क्या है, इस पे बात कर सकते हैं। लेकिन मुझे लगता है पहला काम तो हमें उन लोगों को बचाना है पहले।
Well, let's also go across and listen into what Ahmedabad Joint CP Jaipal Singh Rathod had to say.
प्रिलिमिनरी हमको जो पता चला है वो ये है कि एयर इंडिया की जो लंदन जाने वाली फ्लाइट थी वो टेक ऑफ के बाद यहाँ पे क्रैश हो गई है, जिसमें प्रिलिमिनरी हमें पता चला कि 223 जितने पैसेंजर थे। यहाँ पे जिस बिल्डिंग के ऊपर गिरी है वो डॉक्टर्स का हॉस्टल है। इंसिडेंट बनने के विदिन 2-3 मिनट्स में पुलिस, बाकी सभी बॉडियाँ, सिविल एडमिनिस्ट्रेशन, कॉर्पोरेशन वगैरह सभी लोग आ गए थे। फायर फाइटर वगैरह स्थल पे हाजिर है। लोगों को बचाने की और रेस्क्यू करने की कार्रवाई जारी है। ऑलमोस्ट 70 से 80% एरिया हमने क्लीन कर लिया, बाकी आने समय में हम लोग क्लियर कर लेंगे। मैं सभी मीडिया के मित्रों से रिक्वेस्ट करता हूँ, सभी हमसे सहयोग करें।
Well, let's go across and listen into what the relatives of the victims are saying on this plane crash.
हमारी बहन जा रही थी लंदन,
1 बजे जा रही थी
एक 1:10 की फ्लाइट थी और जा रही थी तो लंदन जाने से पहले ही क्रैश हो गया प्लेन।
हाँ, मेरी शादी था, वो अमृतसर थी, लंदन जा रही थी।
हाँ, फिर
बस वो 1 घंटे में समाचार आ गया तो प्लेन क्रैश हो गया है, इसलिए मैं वापस अहमदाबाद से बाहर निकल गया था, तो वापस आए सिविल में आ गया।
क्या अभी लग रहा है, क्या प्रशासन की तरफ से क्या हेल्प?
अभी देखने भी नहीं मिला, वो अंदर एंट्री नहीं मिली सिविल में, अभी कुछ भी समाचार नहीं मिला है।
Those were the families of the victims who were trying to make sense of what has just happened. Their loved ones lost. Within minutes of the takeoff, the aircraft crashed near a building that was a residential building. And as you can see on your screens, there was a loud thud and a fire that broke out right after the explosion and the smoke coming out. And what we are picking up now is the fact that a lot of the planes were cancelled post this, but now the flights have resumed, albeit with some sort of a delay. But the functions have resumed at Ahmedabad airport, and as we are picking up that the flights have started. The flights have resumed, and they are running a bit late, of course, on account of this. But the flights have started resuming. But now we have Mark D. Martin, who's joining our CEO, Martin Consulting, who's now joining us. Hi, Mark. Thank you so much for taking the time out and joining us.
Thank you for being here, and thanks for having me. A black day in aviation today, very unfortunate.
Absolutely, Mark. It is a black day, in fact, in the history of aviation, one of the most heartbreaking, heart-wrenching crashes that we have seen, But Mark, there are a lot of news pieces floating around. We don't know what has really happened till the time the black box is retrieved. But what could be the potential causes of this big accident?
Well, I think the first thing what I would like to say here is that, we should respect the dead. The pilot is no more. He tried his best from the video we've seen so far. He's tried his best to recover, put his nose up and escape from the obstacle and collision. He just was not able to make it. And I think we should not speculate. Clearly, what has gone wrong is an extremely technical issue, whether it's got to do with the engines or the pilot not getting the thrust he wanted to continue his climb. But I think all agencies need to get together. We need to have the FAA, the NTSB, EASA. We need to have DGCA, AIB. All agencies need to come together. This will be a global investigation. This is not something which is going to be localized to India. And I think for such an incident, we've never had such a catastrophic disaster in 35 years. And it's significant for the simple reason that the 787 is a technologically advanced Generation 5 plus aircraft. It's one of the most advanced. This aircraft had a flawless maintenance operation history with Air India under government management. It was running fine. I think starting 2021, Air India itself has been, not just in this, in several areas, lacking in terms of maintenance and flight operations, with the DGCA even slapping very high fines on Air India. So whatever that's happened here, I think it's high time the government crack the whip and hold all those in management accountable. The pilot had 10,000 hours of flying. He was experienced. He was a TRE, TRI. So I don't think there's anything wrong over there. I think clearly what we're seeing here is something which is systemic, something which has been there all along, but being brushed on the carpet, and I think enough is enough. This incident has already sent ripples across the world. Boeing stock is down by 5% even as we speak. So I think clearly I would request everybody out there, there are a lot of people speculating to the cause of crash, why it happened, what could have happened. I think we need to hold our horses, wait for the investigation to come out. start putting pieces of the puzzle together and ensure that whatever in future we never see an incident like this ever occur.
Right. Mark, let me take a leaf from what you just said about the plane being of the most advanced quality 787, Boeing 787 Dreamliner. But, speaking of that, you also mentioned, Boeing stock is down, almost 9% in right now. But, Boeing has had troubled history. We have seen multiple whistleblowers that have accused Boeing of, prioritizing speed and profit over safety. Is it time that we also held the authorities accountable for that? Because Boeing has been in the news for a while now. In fact, almost intense scrutiny after two fatal 737 MAX crashes in 2018 and 19. So Boeing has been in the line of fire in that sense.
Absolutely spot on. I think even the FAA has slammed Boeing. Production line of Boeing has been shut down by the FAA. The 737 MAX production is halted. But let's remember, this aircraft was flying since 2011 and 12. So it's been flying with Air India and the government management. It's been fine. Whenever Air India and the government management was there was never any halt or spending in maintenance. Maintenance quality was very good. Yes, it is true that Boeing has had, Boeing is possible, if you compare Boeing and Airbus, Boeing has had the worst track record when it comes to safety incidents, from the 737 MAX to 737 NG crashes in China to several others. But I think this particular event, this incident, has to be investigated. I don't think that the two are connected, although yes, it is a Boeing aircraft and we can't criticize Boeing as much as we want, but this has to be an independent investigation, because from what we've seen, he took off, he tried his best to climb out, he did not, and he had something which is called exceeding sink rate, and the aircraft just sunk down and impacted those buildings over there, which is no pilot ever in his career would want to be in a situation like this. There was one similar incident which occurred in Emirates airline where a 777 took off and the pilot could not climb out because of several factors, including flap settings and so on. But thankfully, that did not result in a disaster. But to see this today, it has already sent rippling shockwaves across the entire industry, across the world. And it's not just Air India and the government of India, but every airline that operates a 787 will want to understand what went wrong. And the government it's high time the government of India and the DGCA cracked the whip and held all those accountable in the management of Air India. Because let's be clear, Air India is a private Air India. This is a privatized Air India under Tata and Singapore Airlines management. The government is not responsible, and therefore the government should be, throwing the book and should be throwing the law on this airline right now. Because, we all wanted Air India to be privatized and disinvested. Yes, we've got what we wanted. Now, clearly in the last 4 years since disinvestment, we have not seen Air India shape up, except for a branding, which was never the real problem of Air India. The problem of Air India were issues that were systemic to the airline ground up, and that clearly has not been fixed. The DGC has been finding Air India constantly for the last 3 years. The aircraft quality of Air India is the worst. So I think what we need to do is we need to look at this independently in isolation. I'll caution everybody, don't expect a magic wand situation where the investigation gets out in the next couple of days. This is going to take time. This is a very serious accident. It's a very serious air disaster, and it will take time for all the information, pieces of the puzzle, the DFDR, the CVR, the radar tapes, the radar communications, take time for everything to come together to understand why this happened.
Back to you here. Now, so that's the latest that's coming in. Now, the latest is that 204 bodies have been recovered from the crash site. Martin, how difficult is it going to be to really, recognize these bodies, or as for the families actually to come and claim the bodies?
Look, it's going to be a long, painstaking, and a sad process to identify the bodies, because usually when you see a catastrophic incident like this, a lot of part of the bodies are dismembered, and it's an extremely morbid and a very gory sight, and it's also a devastating moment for the families and the next of kin, and I think clearly whatever that happens, the faster we recover as much as we can from the wreckage, not just the bodies, but a lot of what was going on in the cockpit at that time. Like I said, the CVR tapes, the FDR recordings, all of it should tell us a whole lot of what really happened. And I think, as I said before, that enough is enough. No more appeasement, no more no more gimmicks. I think the government needs to be very, very harsh with this, because the world is now tuned into this incident, and the world will be tracking it very closely. And since this is something which will impact world operation of 787 Dreamliner aircraft, the investigation should be absolutely transparent. Also, we have to be very, very clear that this is a private Air India. It's not a government Air India. So you can't blame the government, but in turn, the government needs to start sharpening its knives and going after those who are responsible in management, so that something like this never occurs again.
Right, Mark, you can blame the carrier, you can blame the manufacturer, but what about the authorities that are responsible for the safety audits?
Well, the DGCA is one of the harshest, vicious, and vile regulators in the world. I've worked with regulators in every region of the world, including EASA and the FAA. Now, don't forget, for the last 3 years, the DGCA has been repeatedly imposing fines, grounding pilots, terminating pilot licenses, on Air India. Your channel reported several incidents on Air India, from toilets not working, the aircraft had to come back, to emergency landings, to cabin seats not working, to pilots being not trained on the aircraft, yet they were flying, to pilots' licenses not being current, to maintenance issues and lapses. ET now reported that. And this has been happening since 2001. Now, why has all of this started since 2001? How come we never saw this when Air India was under government ownership? And I'll tell you why. Because when you're under government ownership, you have the liberty to buy the best and pay for the best, because there's no restriction on buying any part, or no restriction on compromising safety. But when you go into a private environment, you need to raise 10 invoices, and airlines think 10 times before they buy a part. So clearly this is an Air India without the government. This is an Air India without the Tatas. This is an Air India which is being run by Singapore Airlines. And I think we all know how strong Singapore management has been with Air India. And I think, yes, the DGCA should be more sharp, should be more aggressive, should be more vicious. I agree. But eventually we have to bring out and unearth the truth. It's the truth I'm after. Because the last time an incident like this ever occurred, where people perished in such a catastrophic and a tragic way, was probably September 11, when aircraft were used as terror weapons and rammed into the World Trade Center. This is possibly the nearest to that. And it's very sad, but I know time is running out and the clock is ticking, but it's very unfortunate that the amount of people who will be mourning the loss of a loved one, that list is just going to go longer and larger, because I don't think there are going to be any survivors from this crash. And that is something which is extremely unfortunate and very, very depressing. And especially in 2025 in India and with a private Air India. So I think that should say a whole lot.
Right, Mark, point noted there. But thank you so much for taking the time out and joining us.
Thank you so much for being with me. And I request everybody out there, please let's not speculate the cause of this crash. Let's respect the dead. The pilot is no more. He was a super qualified guy with 10,000 hours.
Absolutely.
The young cabin crew operating the flights are no more. People are going to be devastated at this moment. So let's passions not over control us. Let's respect the dead. And thank you so much, ET Now. Thank you for having me.
Right, Mark, absolutely. Our condolences, our deepest condolences to the lost lives and the families. And like you can see, Aviation Ministry has activated helplines, a number in Ahmedabad airport. So for all those stranded at the airport and families perhaps who would be fretting for their loved ones. But with that, it's a wrap on this edition of News Now. I'll take your leave. Thank you so much for tuning in.